Greetings, Gilliam the Rogue here once again, back with another Threats of Tamriel segment. As always, I want to give a massive shout out to the people who helped me, supporting me financially, as well as encouraging me and giving me feedback constantly. You guys mean so much, you help so much more than you actually think so really thank you. In today's video, we will be finalizing Dragonstar Arena, with Stage 10, dealing with Hyath as well as many mini-bosses that we have fought in previous rounds. So let's get right into it. This stage won't have rounds or adds like we would normally do, so there won't be 5 rounds, there won't be many things to do. You just walk in and we see that we have a lot of lava. This is a boss round, so that's all that's going to be happening. There will be some mini-bosses that spawn with Hyath as well as some adds, but it's not going to be the traditional round 1 through 4 of adds and then going to a boss. It's going to be pretty standard, just a boss fight. But it's not going to operate like a normal boss fight. There's going to be a lot of movement, and there's going to be a lot of splitting up in the group. Normally, you'd expect you just go in with your tank, your healer, and your DPS, and go up to Hyath and start beating on him. However, he has some mechanics that kind of disincentivize grouping up, so there's going to be parts where you and your tank are going to split up. So if you're going in as a tank build, you're going to want to be able to be self-sufficient for at least a minute at a time, so healing, resource management, and so on. Dragonites do a fantastic job at doing this. And then as a healer, you also need a way to taunt, because you're going to be taunting some of the mini-bosses. I highly suggest not being a vampire for this, because they will do bonus damage to you, because we're going to be fighting Marclaude again, the Fighters Guild guy. So he's going to be doing a lot of damage if you're a vampire, and you will have to taunt him, pull him away from Hyath, and we'll see that in the gameplay footage, and I'll explain more of why we do that there. But in terms of environmental hazards, there's not really much going on in this stage. There is lava, as I mentioned earlier, but it does very little damage. We can use Harness to negate it. It won't go through it, so this isn't going to be a big issue in terms of taking damage. However, there will be a point in the fight a couple of times where Hyath will reduce everyone's HP to 1. So if you get pulled in with this mechanic and you're standing in lava, you're going to die. So try and place yourself in one of the 3 islands. And if we back up, we see there are 1, 2, 3 islands, and these have some additional mechanics with them where adds will spawn. They're not going to spawn very frequently, and when they do spawn, it's just going to be 2 at a time. They're going to be called Flame Summoners, and all they're going to do is they're going to sit in one place and then shoot out fire in lines. There'll be a refractory phase where they kind of just sit there like an idiot for a bit, and then they'll start doing it again. It's kind of to incentivize moving around, weaving in and out, and then using these islands as platforms during the fight. They have very low health. You can kill them instantly pretty much. We'll see in the creature segment how much they have exactly. There's not too much going on. But yeah, really not a lot of environmental stuff with this, but it is a very difficult boss fight for a lot of players. It lasts a long time, and it kind of breaks away from the classic tank healer 2 DPS just sitting there. The healer will have to taunt, as I mentioned. The tank will have to go on his own. There's going to be splitting up, so be ready for a very different boss fight. But let's go into the creature segment and then the gameplay footage after. So here's the main boss, Hyath the Battlemaster. He's going to have a lot of mechanics associated with him, and he's going to have phases. In Phase 1, this will be from 100% to 75%. He's going to have basic stuff. He's going to have a Steel Tornado, which is going to do super high damage. He's going to have a Whirlwind, which will pretty much one-shot non-tanks. You can block this or dodge it. It's a red circle. He's going to have Power Extraction, which will empower him for the next 10 seconds or so, where he'll do additional damage, and then he'll also have Cripple or Agony, where he'll just do this cast and try to stun someone. You can bash this, you cannot dodge roll it, but pretty straightforward. On top of this, during this phase, he will summon these little fire lines that just shoot out at people, and they'll latch onto you if you're close enough. This is why you are going to want to spread far, far away from Hyatt, and this is why the tank needs to be self-sufficient, because he's going to carry him on top of the island and sit and wait for these fire lines to come out. Then he's going to come out once they drop, and then after about 10 seconds of fire damage, a fire Atronach will spawn at your feet. So you're going to want to place this on the side, and then after this happens, your DPS are going to come in. And then just kill the Atro and then push Hyatt to 75%. After that, he's going to summon 2 adds, Mavis and Marclaude, which we'll see. We've fought them before. They have the same exact mechanics, but then his next phase starts, and that is 75% to 50%. During this, you will want to split once. We'll see in the gameplay. But after 50%, he's going to pull everyone in, regardless of your distance, and take you to 1 HP. This means if you have a dot on you, you're going to die. If you get hit with a mechanic during this, you're going to die, and so on. So you want to make sure you have HOTS running, shields, etc. After that, he's going to do this about every minute or so. And again, he'll have another phase where after you go from 50% to 25%, he's also going to pull you in and do the same thing. After that, he's going to summon 2 more adds, Yavni, Frostkin, and then the Dark Mage from stage 8. Furthermore, as these stages progress, he will also gain new abilities. After 50%, he will attempt to hardcast frags. You can just laugh at him and bash or dodge. He will also randomly drop Novas, which will make him take less damage, do extremely high damage to you, and snare you. You gotta move out of it. After 25%, he will attempt to negate you. Again, this will silence, you must move out, and then he will also use Encase occasionally, which will immobilize you, which you can break with a dodge roll. So just look out for those. He's gonna have a lot of stuff, and there will be a lot of trial and error with this. So be prepared to go through this fight a lot. Next, we have Marclaude, which we've seen before. He's going to spawn at 75%. Again, with Mavis, he's going to do the same mechanics. Dawnbreaker, which will do super high damage in a cone. He'll do Silver Shards, which will do super high damage and knock you down if you're a vampire. And then he'll also drop Circle of Protection, which will heal him. So you must move out of this. You'll take him to the gate. On top of that, when he spawns, Mavis will also spawn with him. And when that happens, the tank will keep Mavis with him. But he's going to have the same mechanics. He's going to place Entropy, which is a dot. If you get pulled in with Entropy on you, you will die, so try and purge it or have a shield running. He'll do Fire Lines and Meteors, so be ready for those mechanics. Next, we have the Fire Summoners, and they start spawning at about 60% or so. They're going to spawn in 2 batches of 2 on every island, so a total of 6. You only need to kill the first 2 by the main island, just so your tank can move and you can get up to him or her, and pretty much they're really, really easy. They just have these little things where they just shoot out fire lines in random directions. You'll kind of have to weave in and out of them like a maze, but they're really low HP. You can kill them really quickly, and then again, after about 10 seconds of that, they'll stop, so you have time or windows to kill them. Next is Yavni. He spawns at 50% with the Dark Mage, and he's really, really low priority. He has a Carve, which he'll place a bleed on you, do some high burst damage, and he'll also have Wrecking Blow. But those are pretty much his only mechanics. He can be ignored for the most part. The tank will keep him with him. Next is the Dark Mage, and she's the real threat. She has a lot of mechanics. She has Encase, this must be dodged. She has Mines, which she'll place. If you get pulled in, you'll get zapped and killed. She'll have a Negate, which will silence you. You got to move out of it. And then she'll have Dark Deal, which must be Bash because she'll heal. And then Null or Void Sphere, which she'll do a channel and summon this giant thing that will land on you and deal super high damage. That can be bashed or simply avoided. But now we'll begin with the gameplay footage, and there's a lot going on here, so I'm going to try and take it slow. But what happens is the tank is going to go all the way up to the main island. Now, everyone should stay at the gate. If you're very comfortable with this fight and you're a DPS, you can go with the tank at the start and deal a little bit of damage to Hyatt, but you're going to want to stay by the gate for the most part, because that's where our healer is going to be pulling the adds when we need to do our split phases. At the start, we have plenty of time with Boethia giving her speech, so you can prepare, get ready, make sure your tank is running abilities to heal himself, like Dragon Blood or Sap Essence or whatever based on their tank or class. But they're going to pull Hyath. You can put some DPS on him if you are a DPS, so like dots, and then I run immediately back to the gate. And we're just going to wait here until our tank gets the fire circle. This is the fire line that I talked about where he just chucks it at you, and if you're close enough, you're going to get it. So since we're all far away, we don't get it. Deltia has received it. Now he's going to go to the side. He's going to drop the fire. It becomes a fire pool, and then an Atronach spawns. He says, okay, it's out. We go up, and we're going to focus the Atronach, kill her, and then go back to Hyath. Now, if you have really high DPS, you're going to be able to push him to 75% in a single phase. But if you don't, you're going to want to leave after about 20 or 30 seconds, and then he's going to do that fire stuff again. But we have the DPS, so we're just going to push him. There we're seeing a lot of his mechanics. He did the power extraction when we first came in. There was his cripple where he tried to stun Deltia. He has that little flip leap, but that doesn't do anything. But now we get them to 75% and the two adds are going to spawn. Mavis and Marclaude. We're immediately going to focus Mavis because we want to kill him first because he's the real threat. Deltia, our tank, will have to deal with Marclaude placing Dawnbreaker and Silver Shards as well as using Circle of Protection, so he's going to have to be very mobile. Mavis himself does really high damage, and it's time for us to go because Hyath is about to do his fire line mechanic, and we don't want to be there, otherwise we're going to take super high damage. So our healer taunts Mavis, and we all run back to the gate, and then this is where we're going to hang out for a bit. I think Mavis actually doesn't come with us, so we're just forced to have Deltia tank. Luckily, he has things like Molten Armor, so he can take no damage. But I noticed there are some Fire Summoners, so I'm just going to get some ulti, kill those during this. But I also would want to make sure I don't get close enough to Hyath to get that obnoxious flame damage. Deltia calls that the Atros have spawned, so we're going to go up, kill the Atro, and then we're also going to kill Mavis. But before we do that, we're going to kill the two summoners that spawned with that. You'll also notice that meteors are constantly raining down. This is from Mavis himself. Again, he's going to have the same mechanics as Stage 8, so you have to be very careful. Be ready to block. You can't dodge it. So we're going to kill Mavis here, and then we're going to pull Marclaude with us and go back to the gate after we kill this Atro. But again, like I said, this is a very different boss fight. There's a lot of movement. It's very, very dependent on you being versatile and just being ready to deal with these differences. So your healer is going to have to run a taunt or a DPS even, so that you can pull these mini bosses with you to the gate instead of having all of this crazy damage. But now we bring Champion Marclaude with us, and he's a real doozy as well, because he's going to do Dawnbreaker of smiting on whoever he's facing. He's going to drop the Circle of Protection, which heals him like crazy. He's got to be pulled out of it. Here he's just sitting in it and getting free health. He's also going to have Silver Shards, which does super high burst damage, so your healer is going to have a hard time with stamina management. So if you're a DPS and you can get away with running a taunt because you have bar space, then it's really good if you do that, because your healer can heal you, throw you shards, and so on. Mavis, again, is going to, or Marclaude is going to have heavy attacks too, which is going to be a big issue. So, since he's healed so much, we just say, all right, Deltia's got his fire circle. He drops the Atro. He says, okay, we're clear. And we're just going to pull him back with us and then push Hyath to 50%. So I have Deltia taunt, and then we're going to kill the flame summoners so that we can not have to worry about all their crazy high fire damage throughout the fight. I have our other DPS focusing the Atronach, and then we're also just going to cleave down Marclaude with the Atro and Hyath. But the fight gets a little bit slower here, and once we get him to 50%, he's going to do his pull mechanic. He says, that's it, you've made me fight for it. He pulls everyone in, we all drop to 0 HP, and then he does this final explosion where it does about 6k damage, and the point is that you need to heal during this phase. He'll stun the adds, but if you have like a fire line or a dot on you, you're going to take some damage and die if you're at that 1% HP. Now, since he's been pushed to 50%, the two other adds are going to spawn, the Dark Mage and Yavni. The Dark Mage drops a negate on us, she starts Dark Dealing, we have to bash, and Hyath is still going to do his Flame Shape attack, so we're going to have to worry about splitting. So I call taunt the Dark Mage, and we're going to pull her with us to the gate so that we don't get those obnoxious fire circles and get 4 Atronachs. She's taking her sweet time because she's ranged, but now that she's in range, we're just going to be able to do basic stuff. She has a crystal frag. You can easily dodge it as we did, or you can bash it if you're in range. But it's pretty easy once she's back here. She's not going to do any crazy high damage in a 1v1 or a 1v3. She's only an issue when she's with Hyath and Yavni, because there's just so much going on that you have to avoid. There she drops her mines around herself and then does the Void Sphere. I get blinded from Hyath because Hyath is also going to blind players after about 40% or 50%. Deltia has called that the Atro is clear. We're going to go up, kill the fire summoners and the Atro, and then we're also going to deal with Yavni. But we're going to get pulled in here, and very, very spooky. There's tons of damage. Luckily, we have Harness because we're all Magicka builds. But Hyath, again, every minute or so, he's going to try and pull you in. Here he drops a Nova on us all, which was really, really worrisome. And now he's going to try and pull us in again. So since there's a Nova on the ground, we almost died. But again, we're Magicka builds. We're OP as shit, and we have Harness Magicka. So we all spam Harness as we get pulled in, and Nova dissipates. But instead of killing Yavni, we're just going to sit here and burn Hyath because we don't have to worry. There we see him trying to do the 50% HP reduction. Again, you have about 20 seconds or so after he gets to 10% health to avoid that, and it's pretty easy to do. But there was a lot in that fight. Again, it's going to take you many, many times to get used to it. It's not an easy fight, and it's very, very different from typical fights. So after that, 4 Pillars of Light will spawn. Everyone goes into one. You'll be praised by Boethia with some RP. You'll float up into the air with this cool animation, and then you'll be transported into a treasure room. But you go inside, there's a big treasure chest we'll see in just a moment. But inside lies your reward, which is a random master weapon. You might also get some fluff stuff of the other sets, but there's also some containers. If you're really into RP, there's a little book to read, but that wraps up Dragonstar Arena. Let me know what you guys think, what you'd like to see next, but until then, I'll see you around. If you've liked the content in this video, consider pledging at my Patreon. The community's interest and support ensure that I can keep making content as well as looking for ways to improve. To those who already have, I truly appreciate all the support, discussion, and encouragement you all give. You are amazing. If you have feedback for this video, drop a comment below, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or subscribe to the channel. Other than that, I will see you guys next time.